Precal stops for no one. We'll get practice test 2 done, and then we'll be ready to go. We're not doing 1. We are going to do 2 and 3. All right. So here we go. Practice test 2. Remember, they are all identical. So it doesn't really matter which ones we do. They all have the same thing going on. So here we go. Number 1. This is practice test 2. This is the equation, just like the quiz you just took. Number 1. Is this growth or decay? This is decay. And we know it's decay because this number right here is less than 1. What is the percent growth or decay? 0.39, 39%. That is exactly right. Very, very good. That is how much less than 1 this number is, right? So 0.39. Good, good, good. 39%. What is the initial value? 0.82. Everybody's going to get that one right, hopefully. Okay? Now to number 2. Write the equation of the exponential function containing these 2 points. Okay? Does anybody remember anything about this? Jonathan?
Isn't there a formula?
There is.
Like A ends up equaling 0 or something?
You're on the right track. There's a formula. Does anybody remember what it is for an exponential? Eric? Well, we are going to, that's going to be our first step. But what are we going to plug that into? What's our general formula? Y equals A times B to the X. Better write that down so you remember it. Y equals A times B to the X.
Is that one going to be on the
No, you need to know that. That's an exponential.
What is it called?
This is the exponential form, yeah. Just like when I say, what's the equation of a line? You say y equals mx plus b. What's the equation of an exponential? Y equals ab to the x. Now we do what some of you guys were talking about. We take this point right here. We always start with the point that has a 0. And we put 1/2 in for y and 0 in for x. Remember doing that? And what's b to the 0? 1. So 1/2 ends up equaling A. So if 1/2 equals A, now we have this equation. Y equals 1/2 b to the x. So what's the second step? That was the first step. What's the second step? Plug in the other point. So we put 81/2 in for y and 4 in for x. Remember, this is the x value, not the b value. That's the x. What should I do here? Divide by 1/2, which is the same as timesing by 2. So b to the 4th would be what if I times by 2? 81. What does b have to be if you take it to the 4th power and get 81? It won't be a fraction. It'll be a nice whole number. What times what times what times what? 4 times?
3.
3. So b is 3. Don't get so excited that you forget to write your answer. 1/2 times 3 to the x. A was 1/2, B was 3, so your answer is 1/2 times 3 to the x. Is anybody going to multiply the 1/2 and the 3 together? Never. Never. They stay as separate numbers. Good. All right, number 3 now. They've got a bunch of problems to simplify. So we'll start with this one. This is no calculator, you guys. This page of the test will be front and back. Will be no calculator. So here we go. How do I do 81 to the negative 3/2? 1 over. Negative means 1 over. Very good. And then I do with a fraction?
Take the fourth root.
It's a radical, so that's 1 over the 4th root of 81 cubed. So I need to figure out the 4th root of 81, 3, and 3 cubed is 27. Ooh, actually it's kind of easy. 2 to the negative third, what does that mean? 1 over 2 to the third, so the answer is 1/8. A couple of you on yesterday's quizzes, as you went from step to step, you forgot the 1. Don't forget, as soon as you put 1 over, your answer is going to be 1 over. Your final answer. All right, how about the next one?
Just plug them.
The negative will take that fraction and flip it. So we have 9/16 squared. 9 squared is 81. 16 squared, anybody happen to know what that one is? What?
100. 106.
No, 256. Now, Mrs. Ford has that memorized because she's ancient and does this for a living. You don't have that memorized, so if you have to do 16 squared and you don't have a calculator, what are you going to do? 16 times 16, and you're going to work it out. All right, D. Don't you dare be freaked out by this problem. Anytime you have an ln and an e back to back, what happens to them? They cancel. What's the answer to the question? -6. There is not an ounce of work that has to be shown. It's -6. When you have an ln and an e back to back, they cancel. Now, e is kind of the same, but I don't have a match. 5 and 25 need to match. How am I going to make the 5 and the 25? How am I going to make them match? What am I going to do? I'm going to rewrite 25 as 5 squared. And when I have these two numbers matching, they cancel, and the answer is 2. Oh, F is one of the big ones. Tony, my friend, how would you like to start problem F?
Square everything?
That's one option. One option would be to square everything. Now, boys and girls, when you square everything, we're talking about the 3 and the 4 also. So if we did that, it would be 9 over 16, x to the what power? -6. Very good. We don't want to screw that up. X to the -6, y to the 4th, x to the -8, y squared. Or I guess I don't need these parentheses anymore. It's double. Everything's squared. I squared it all. Now what do we need to do? We got negative stuff all around, and that can't be, so anything that's negative moves. So x to the 6th down, x to the 8th up, y stay put. Do you think we're done? No, probably not.
No.
What do we still need to do? We've got x's over x's, right? What's going to happen to those guys? 2 x's on top. Good. There's more on the top, so the extras will be on the top. What about the y's? 2 y's on the top. There's your answer. Now, you might do that in a little bit different order, and that's okay. The order that you do it is not what's important, just so you get everything done. All right? Uh-oh. G's another easy one. What's the answer to G? 12. 12. That's one of your properties. When those two 3's match, the answer is the other number. No work, just 12. H, little bit tricky. What's the base here? 10. The base is 10. Now, I need these two numbers to match. That almost matches. How could I rewrite 1 over 10? It's 1 over, so I could write it as 10 to the what, Mason? Negative first. Kids, what's 10 to the negative first? 1 over 10. And why do I need to go the other way? Because I need these two numbers to match. When they match, they cancel, and the answer will be negative 1. Okay? Luke, head up, pencil moving, eyes up here. Here we go. 3/4 to the negative second. So, well, now wait, some of you are good at that. Let's do it a step at a time. First we flip it, so that gives us 4/3 squared. And then we get exactly what you said, 16 over 9.
This one?
Yep.
Why did you just circle the negative 1 on the?
Because that's the answer.
That's the only thing you have to do.
That's the answer.
Okay.
The 10's cancel. So the answer is just negative 1. Alright, now here's the deal, folks. Some of these problems are hard. Some of them are easy. This is easy. Nobody should be missing this. In addition, nobody should miss J, because I have said at least 10 times in the last 2 days that when you have an E and an LN back to back, what happens? They cross out. So what is the answer to J? 6. Period. Period. All right. Next page. No calculator still. Now there was a question just like this one on yesterday's quiz. Who remember? Most of you got it right. Who remembers how to do a problem like this? 4 to the third equals x plus 1. 4 to the third equals x plus 1. You have done that a ton. Whatever you want to call it, that's what you do. So what's 4 to the third?
64.
Good, 64. So the answer to the problem is 63. All right, let's look at B. Step 1, divide by 4. Step 1, divide by 4. Get that 4 out of there. So 3 to the x equals 9. Exactly. Trey's back there talking to himself. He says, this is just like the quiz question we had. We need these two numbers to match. So 9 is 3 squared, and that means what? X equals 2.
So you just crossed out the log 4.
Okay, I'm on problem B. There aren't any log 4s in problem B. All right, letter C. Come on, let's see if we can get this practice test done. Wouldn't that be awesome? All right, look at it carefully. What do you think about starting? Divide by 3. That's exactly what you want to do. You want to divide by 3. Just like in this problem, you divided by 4. So log x equals 2. Now remember, what's the base here? 10. So now we're gonna rewrite that problem how? 10 to the second equals x. So the answer is 100.
Everybody needs a friend like Big Dan.
All right, what's step one? Divide by 27. It goes in, I don't know how many times, let's see, we'll have to figure that out. 243, is it 9? Yeah. So it goes in 9 times. I didn't know that, I had to figure it out. You can figure it out. Now this is tricky. In order to do this, we have to have a 1/3 and a 9 be the same number. So could we make them both 3s?
Yes.
But if we make this a 3, because it's 1/, it would have to be 3 to the negative first.
Good enough.
1/, means negative exponent. And then this one would of course just be 3 squared. Now they match, so we can say
I get it.
negative 2x equals 2, so x equals negative 1.
Interesting.
Could you make it them both 1/3?
You can make them both 1/3. If you make this a 1/3, it would be 1/3 to the negative second. Yep, you absolutely could. All right, now, Jonathan, we're ready for E. Now, kids, if this weren't here, if none of this were here, that would be a loop-de-loop problem. Would you agree? Okay, but it is there. Now, I want to turn it into a loop-de-loop problem. So that means I have to somehow turn these two into just one. These two logarithms have to get smashed together, so there's only one. Now, they're being added. So when I put them together, what will I do? I will distribute, I will multiply, so it will be 3x plus 3. When I put the two logarithms together, they are always going to go together as either a multiplication or a division. How do I know which it is? If it's an add problem, I multiply them. If it's a subtract problem, I would divide them. Okay? Now, can I loop-de-loo it?
Yeah.
Now I can say 4 to the first equals 3x plus 3. 4 to the first equals 3x plus 3.
Yep.
So 4 equals 3x plus 3. I got 1/3. What about you?
1/3. No.
Did you get 1/3?
Yeah.
Now I know that for some of you, you would rather be doing just about anything other than listening to me blab. But come on, we got a big test coming up. This is a graduation requirement course. We'd love to pass.
Yes, we would.
So let's use this time right now so we get every point we possibly can on this big test we're going to take. All right, take a look at it. Do you see there's two logarithms over here?
Yeah.
Just like we had over here? Can't be. That's right. They got to be combined. You don't want two logarithms added together. or you don't want two logarithms subtracted if they were subtracted. You don't want that, ever. You want to put those together. So when I put them together, now not that one, because he's on that side of the equation. I'm putting these two together. When I put them together, I'm either going to I'm either going to multiply these two numbers or I'm going to divide these two numbers. Which is it going to be? Multiply. And why is it multiply?
Addition.
Because that's an addition. Very
If
good.
it's minus, it's division.
Yes. So the 18x plus 9.
Then can you cross off the log?
Now, kids, look, that's different than this. This one I only had one logarithm, so I had to loop-de-loo to get rid of it. Here, I got one on each side, so they cancel out. Someone in this room, I guarantee it, is going to go to the original problem and cross off all the logarithms. You can't do that. The only time you can cross them off is when you have 1 equal to 1. One logarithm equal to one logarithm. Then you can cross them off. So 18x plus 9 equals 3. 18x equals -6. And x equals -1/3, which actually is okay. All right. 6 over 18, 1/3.
Yeah.
All right, how about G? Any thoughts on G? Anybody have an idea about it?
The thing, put E in there.
Yes, the base on that logarithm is E. That's exactly right. And then it's just like this one, we're going to loop-de-loop. So what's it going to say? E to the third equals 2x. So x equals e to the third over 2. And you're done. You don't have to do anything with that. Just leave it that way. Any thoughts on the last one? This is the very last one. You're doing great. Any thoughts on it? What? Well, I don't know what the x equals 2. No, because 4 squared is 6 over. Oh. Think of your quiz we just took. I gotta change them. And I want them both to be the same number. So what can I change 4 and 32 into? 2's. So 2 squared is 4. And 2 to the 5th is 32. And I can figure that out by just counting 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That makes 32.
X equals 5 over 2.
So 2x equals 5 and x equals 5 over 2. That is exactly right. Now we'll get our calculators out because the last page, front and back, is calculator allowed.
Big Den. Scuttle. Speaking over here,
All right. Jolie, you're not feeling well, sweetie? You need to go to the office? Okay, all right. Okay, here we go. This is the same thing we were doing a minute ago. We're going to put these together. So instead of having 2 separate problems, we're going to have one logarithm. Now, this is a little bit trickier, though, because there's something in here that wasn't in our last problem. Okay, yeah, that I can deal with. What about these guys? What am I going to do with those? I'm not going to divide. Move them where? They're an exponent. Very good. This is the log of x squared, and this is the log of y cubed. Coefficients in front of logarithms are exponents. So this is x squared, and this is y cubed. Now I'm going to put them together. Since that's a plus, when I put them together, what will I do with the x squared and the y cubed? Multiply them. And you are done. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now 6 is the exact opposite of that. Six is the exact opposite of that. I want you to pull it apart. There's 3 letters, so I want you to have 3 separate logarithms. You're going to have one for each letter. You're going to have a log x, a log y, and a log z. Now what are we going to do with those? Are we going to add them, or subtract them, or what? We're going to add the x and the y, and why would we do that? Because they are being multiplied. And then we'll subtract the z because it is being divided. If you were going to put these all together into one big logarithm, wouldn't you multiply the x and the y and divide the z? Yep, you sure would. We're just doing the opposite, taking it apart. Alright, we're almost done. I have 6 more problems. Here we go. How about this next one? Does anybody remember how to find the log base 5 of 10?
Let's type that in.
What? Type what in?
Log 5.
Well, we're going to use our calculator for sure. You could rewrite it that way and take the logarithm of both sides. That's the way I do it. But when we did this in class, we talked about this is the log of 10 divided by the log of 5. Remember, this number is above this number, so it's the log of 10 over the log of 5. So I just go to my calculator and I type that in. Don't forget, a big mistake we often make is we forget to close that. Make sure you close that parenthesis. I got 1.431.
Yeah,
All right, any thoughts about problem B, 7B?
Divide by 3.
Divide by 3. Very good, Mason. We want to divide by 3. Now, this is like your quiz question. Ideally, we would be able to make these match, right? But can you make a 2 and a 5 match? No, so that's what we need our calculator for. What do? Log each side. Very good. And what's the purpose of that? What good does that do me? What happens to this? It doesn't get rid of it, but it brings it out front. So x log 2 is log 5. So x equals log 5 divided by log 2. .322. more of these before we go to the word problems. Any thoughts? Yes, you have to divide by 5. It's just like, some other part right here. It's just like this problem. We have to divide by 5. Now, I wrote 12/5. You could write that as a decimal if you wanted to. Now what? ln it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to ln it. And here's why. What happens when you have an lne? They're gone, and we have 0.13x equals ln 12/5. So x will be ln 12/5 divided by 0.13. And I got 6.734. All right, 3 more problems. Here we go. These are the word problems. So I'm going to give you the formulas, so I'll write them up here. And then we have to decide which one we're going to use. All right, so those are the 2 formulas. I will give those to you. I'll probably write them on the board. All right, so I read the first question. Which formula do you think you want to use? The top one or the bottom one? The top one. And the key word in the problem is compounded monthly. So I'm going to use the top formula, compounded monthly. All right, tell me what to put where. Double an investment, what does that mean?
T is 11.
All right, T is going to be 11 because it says 11 years. What does double an investment mean? End up with double what you started with.
So we get 150.
So if they gave me 50 to start with, I would end up with 100. Now, we're making those numbers up. It is totally not relevant. Pick a number to start with. Tag wanted to start with $50. Great. That means I'm going to end up with 100. If you wanted to start with $1,000, then you would end up with $2,000. It's not going to make a difference. You'll see why in a minute. I do not know my interest rate, but I know it's compounded monthly for 11 years. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply 12 times 11. So this is 132. All right, now what? Take a look at your equation. What do you think might be a good way to start? Divide. So 2 equals 1 plus r over 12 to the 132nd power. All right, this is big time math. I want you to think about something for a minute. If you had an equation where 5 equaled x squared or something like that, what would you do? How would you get rid of that exponent so you could say x equals? What do? We square root both sides, right? Well, guess what I'm going to do over here, kids? You're exactly right. I'm going to 132nd root both sides. That is the only way to get rid of this exponent. So 1 plus r over 12 equals 2 to the 1 over 132. Now, fractional exponents are radicals, right? So instead of typing the 132nd root on my calculator, I'm going to raise it to the 1 over 32 power. So 2 raised to the 1 divided by 132 power.
Big girl math right now.
This is screwing up math. Alright, now that's, I got this number. Now remember, I'm supposed to be figuring out R. So what am I going to do? Subtract 1. And then what do I need to do? Times by 12. That didn't take long, did you? So the answer...
I have to go back out.
What?
I just have to grab our stuff because we won't be done by the end of the period.
You haven't even started yet?
No.
So R is 0.063, which would mean an interest rate of about 6.3%. All right, two more, and then we'll be done. Don't joke about that. All right, how much will be in the account at the end of 12 years if $10,000 is invested at this interest rate compounded quarterly? I still need the first formula. I still need the first one. What's the key? Compounded quarterly. What? No, if it were continuously, I'd be using this formula. But it says quarterly, so that's the top one. All right, so how much will be in the account if I start with $10,000 at 0.02175% compounded quarterly for 12 years? All right, so take a look. I plugged in all the numbers in the problem. Make sure you understand why I put my numbers where I put them. Where do the 4s come from? Quarterly. That's 4 times a year. Monthly, those would be 12s. I'm just going to type that in. I don't have to do anything fancy. This is an easy one. So I start right here with the parentheses. If you have a calculator, type along with me. 1 plus 0.02175 divided by 4 equals. And then what power are we going to raise that to? The 48. So use your caret button and raise it to the 48th power. And then times it by 10,000. I got $12,973.10. One more. Here we go.
Oh.
What formula? Hang on. One more. What formula? That's a PERT formula. Remember, it's PERT 2 times, or 2 different ways. If it says continuously, or if it's not money. This is not money. All right, so we start with 432, and we end with 987 in 15 hours. So I end up with this many, started with this many, 15 hours. Step 1, divide. So 987 over 432, that's probably something yucky, I'm not worried about it. Now what? ln both sides. And the beauty, magic, wonder, awesomeness of that is what happens right here. Cancels. So 15r equals ln this fraction. So I will ln that fraction. And then divide it by 15. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm gonna divide by 15. So I got 0.055, which means the interest rate I need would be about 5.5%. All right. Now, I am done blabbing. What I need you guys to do now is, you got a little over 15 minutes. I want you to start, either work on your homework and come up and ask me questions if you've got questions about homework problems, or